In this video, we want to apply the Lightbox plugin on this page. This is the about.html page, and what we want to do is activate those images such that when we hover and click on them, a bigger version of the image opens here in the center of the page, and the background will be a see-through kind of black. And that plugin is called Lightbox. So if you go ahead and Google just Lightbox, you will find Lightbox by Lokish Dakar. You will find many links. Let me go back just to show you. So I Googled Lightbox, and this is what you should click on, Lightbox Lokish Dakar. So click on that, and let's go ahead and look at the demo. So obviously here it says download, view on GitHub, and so forth. What you want to do first of all is look at the examples. Anytime you look for plugins online, you want to look at the demos to see if you like it or not. And based on that, if it's available for free, then you download the code, and you also read the documentation, which explains how you should use the plugin. So let's look at the examples. I'm going to click on this. It says here 2 individual images. So if I click on this image, this is the effect of Lightbox, right? You hover over the image. It's obviously a link. You click on it, and then the bigger version of the image loads, and the background becomes black with some transparency so you can see through. There's an X at the bottom right corner, and there's usually text underneath the image that explains what the image is. Now, these 2 images are individual. That's why I have to click on the other image to see it. So there's no link or relationship between the 2 images. In other words, there are no arrows on the right and on the left sides that I can click on to move from one image to another. As opposed to this example, which is the 4 image set. So if I click on the Golden Gate Bridge, I'm going to get the image of this beautiful bridge. As you can see, the caption is at the bottom. And when I hover over the image close to the right side, you will get the right arrow, and you click and you get another image, and then another image, and so forth. And you can continue clicking by going to the left side, and it's going to take you back. So what this documentation here is at the bottom, it basically explains how we install this, and how we can make it work on our own images. Now, let's pretend we surfed online, we found many plugins, and we ended up liking Lightbox. So as we said, the first thing we do is we look at the demos. Once we like it, we download the code. So let's go ahead and click on this button and download the code, and then obviously find it in your downloads folder. So mine is right here. I'm going to drag this whole thing and drop it inside of your class, which is ADV 354 online. So let me create a new folder called Lightbox, just to have things clean and nice. And I'm going to take this download and place it inside of that folder. So you do the same thing. Wherever your work is saved, inside of that folder, create a new folder, call it Lightbox, and by all means put the downloaded folder, which is a zipped folder, inside of that Lightbox folder. Then go ahead and unzip by double-clicking, and let's see what's inside. Okay, so inside of this folder we have many files, most of which we do not need, and with experience we will learn which ones to disregard and which ones to look into. So, you can go ahead and click on these and check what's inside. You can see that in the examples folder there's the index, which is exactly that page we were on, right? It's the same thing, it shows you basically how the plugin works. And here's the license. You can look at source. What you need basically is under this folder called dist and then this folder called source. Let me see what's in dist. So here we have a CSS folder that has a file called lightbox.css. We have an images folder that has the little images of the X button, the arrows, the loading circle, these little drawings, if you will, that you have to press on to move to the next picture or to close the picture altogether. They are all here. And you have a JS folder, which includes the jQuery files. Okay, so all of these are necessary. Now, how do we place these files within our own folder, the French apps folder? Where do we place them? And all of that, we have to read the documentation to understand what we need to do. So let's go back to the website and read how to use. How to use. Step 1, load the JavaScript and CSS. So number 1, download and unzip the latest version of Lightbox. We already did that. So we're done with number 1, step 1. Step 2, look inside the JS folder to find jQuery 1.11.0 min.js. Okay? So we have to look for this file and lightbox.min.js and load both of these files. Load the jQuery first. And he's telling us that this is the syntax you need to write, and you need to write it obviously in the head element because this is information, and information goes inside of the head element, not in the body element. Now, let's do what they tell us to do. We have to find this file, 1.11.0. Let's check. Okay, I already went ahead and looked in detail what's inside of these folders, and there is no such file called 1.11.0. Now, why is that? That's because they have merged that file called 1.11.0 with the other file called lightbox.min.js into this file, and that's why they've called this file Lightbox plus jQuery, which means the Lightbox plugin plus the jQuery library, and we'll explain what library means shortly. So what is a library and what is a plugin? jQuery 1.11.0 is the library, and lightbox.min.js is the plugin. We know that by looking at the names. Whenever we see a name with values, numeric values like 1.11.0, immediately we conclude that that's the library. And whenever we see a name such as Lightbox or Cycle and so forth, we conclude that that's the plugin. What the plugin does is it's basically a file. As you can see, .js is a file, and it contains code that will allow the Lightbox effect to happen. And what Lightbox does is it basically displays images on the entire screen, and it dims out the rest of the background. Similarly, the Cycle plugin, if we look at this page, the Cycle plugin can include the zoom effect, the scroll down effect, the horizontal left effect, the horizontal right effect, and so forth. But they're all part of the Cycle plugin. So there probably is a file called cycle.js, which is the plugin file which allows these interactive effects to take place. Now that we know what the plugin does, we want to understand what the role of the library is. So again, this is the library, and the role of the library is to translate the language, the jQuery language that's written in the plugin, into JavaScript, into a language that the browser understands. Because the browser does not understand jQuery, it understands JavaScript. And so in order for the plugin to work, we need a translator, and the translator is the library. It translates the language in the plugin from jQuery to JavaScript so that the browser understands it. So whenever there's a plugin file written in jQuery, a library file must accompany the plugin file in order for that translation to happen. Except that in this case, what they've done is that they've merged the Lightbox plugin file and the library into one file without updating the information in the documentation. But now as we implement this, we will make the change, and it's pretty straightforward.